Hey everybody, randomly doing a live. I'll be doing a live tonight with Christina to talk about being a mortician and being a single mom. But I had received an email from a student who would like to have me answer some questions for them and have found this is the easiest way to do it is to do a video for them. And then you can also hear the answers as well. So let's dive into the questions. They are an international business management student, and I'm not sure what class. See if they said for an English class. They're doing an essay on how funeral directors communicate with grieving families. I have not read these questions. I just counted them quickly to know that there's 9. So here we go. When working with grieving families, what language do you prefer to use or not use? Example, saying, I'm sorry for your loss is very basic. How would you comfort a grieving family person? So if we're talking about from my standpoint as a funeral director, the first thing I do is have a family share their story with me so I know where they're coming from. Have they been up for the last 3 days? Was this sudden? Is this kind of a relief to them? And yes, families do use the word relief when it has been a long illness, when they have gone through dementia or Alzheimer's with their loved one. They can feel relief, and they feel selfish a little bit saying it, but they do say it. And it's kind of nice to know where their mindset is at in some ways. I do say I'm so sorry that this has happened, but I don't like the words either. Sorry for your loss. You didn't lose them. They died. They're still as much in your life, just not physically, is what my mindset is, that you didn't 100% lose them from your life. And so I really hate the word loss. It's just my own personal belief. But I will say, I'm sorry for your heartbreak. I'm sorry for the hurt that you are going through right now. I like to use comforting words that, we're going to walk alongside you. I'm here to care for you. To the family, we're not just there to take care of the deceased. We're more so there to take care of them as we are caring for their loved one. So I try and use verbiage like that. If I'm going to a visitation, I will say, I'm so sorry for your heartbreak. Tell me about your loved one. So many people go to visitations and things and ask, oh, was he sick? What happened? Tell me about it. They want like the juicy, good end of life story. Why would you ask that? Like, I think it's a selfish question in a lot of ways, because if 100 people come to visitation and that poor family has to repeat that story 100 times, it's terrible. Like, ask about their loved one. Tell me a story. Oh my gosh, I saw the picture of your mom roller skating. That's awesome. Did she love to roller skate? Ask something from what they are, what you're seeing around the room and what's going on. Hey, Christina. So that is one thing I recommend doing. When discussing the state of a family's deceased loved one, how do you communicate honestly about their state but not be gruesome? If a family wants to see their loved one who died traumatically and is disfigured, how would you communicate that to them? I am a very honest person when it comes to these things, and it's good to look at the deceased before you go in to meet with a family. If you're not in a care center working, go back, check them out, especially if it's an accident or anything. You want to know. Eddie chooses the loudest toys when I'm on a video. I would ask if they want a viewing for the public or just for the family prior to cremation. What kind of a viewing are they looking for? We can cover half a face. We can cover a whole head. We can allow them to hold a hand. So there's ways to do a viewing or be in their presence moment other than just looking at their face. So there's ways to communicate around that. I'm not going to be like, ooh, your mom's purging out her mouth. There's black stuff everywhere. There's blood everywhere. I'm not going to say that. Discoloration, bloating. They do not probably look like you remembered them, obviously, because, it's not them fully anymore. They're not smiling. They don't have their personality. It's not who they were to us, and it's in their entirety. So I will use very basic words, nothing flashy, but try to convey a non-scary vision. Typically, what someone is envisioning is going to be worse than what the actual visual is. So trying to encourage or squash some fears during that conversation is super important as well. All right, next question from the student that sent these to me. After a funeral, supporting the grieving family is not done. How would funeral directors communicate with the grieving family after the service? What kind of support or resources would a funeral home director provide to a family weeks or months after the service? So I think it's super important. We are not therapists at all. So I think there's a little bit of, being able to know how to lead someone to the right person to help them in certain situations, where some funeral directors, I think, don't have the training. That's not what their area of expertise is, but they try to handle someone who needs far more help than a funeral home can provide when it comes to extended grief or like life-hindering grief, where 2 years later you're still not getting out of bed, or even a year later you're not getting out of bed, or 6 months later you're still not getting out of bed, things like that. So having resources, having therapists, having support groups, having books, having all these tools that we can offer up to families, offer up to individuals, and help them to navigate to be in the right place with the right people. Sometimes they just want to stop in and have someone to talk to because they're lonely at home. They didn't have kids. They spent a lot of time at home just with their significant other, and they're just maybe lonely. So sometimes they come up with reasons just to stop in the funeral home. So taking the time just to chat with people when they're stopping in is important. But I think that, encouraging people, even at a funeral, I know when I've gotten up and spoke at funerals, because we do that, we act as celebrants sometimes, I will at the end say, those of you in attendance, I want you to, as you're leaving here today or right now, get out your phone, scroll 1 month out, 2 months out, 3 months out, and on your calendar, put a note, call Mary Smith or whoever the wife is, or call your friend of Bob Smith, who is the deceased, and just put a reminder on there to make a note to take a moment to reach out to those individuals, not for any specific reason, but just to make sure you're reaching out and checking in on them, providing support for them. Go home and grab a card and leave it on the shelf with a date on it that you're going to drop it in the mail down the road, a few weeks out. But remind yourselves to check in on this family. So I'd like to say that at funerals that I officiate, I think it's really important to encourage people to do that. They're there for a reason. They're there because they loved someone in that family, if not just the deceased. So it's good to encourage them to keep giving that love past the funeral. For families of non-Christian religions, how would funeral directors communicate to them about their culture and religion? In the Muslim faith, it is important for the family to wash and dress their loved one. How would a funeral home director accommodate those needs? So we do different religions all the time, handling a Hindu family right now, and it's really no different. Every family has different requests and needs. I think it's super important to put aside egos a little bit. And if you've never handled a family of different religions, to say, I don't have the expertise here, but I am very thankful you've chosen me to honor and care for your loved one. Please let me know how I can help you through this and what we need to do to respect your religion and respect your culture. It's very important to do that. Don't assume things. That's the biggest area you're going to get yourself into. Oh, they're from the Middle East. They must be Muslim or of the Islamic faith. Don't assume what someone's religion is or what their practices are. There are Middle Eastern Christian faiths. There's all sorts of, different walks of cultures and faiths. So I think that's a huge part of it, is just having open communication. And go back to your books from mortuary school, read about these religions, start Googling, death culture practices within different religions and cultures to try and educate yourself as you're encountering them. You're not going to be fully set up and know how to handle every religion if it's not something you do every day. So being humble enough to allow them to teach you about what they're doing is very important. Because it's beautiful to watch different cultures, different religions, different individuals take care and honor their community members, their family members, their church, synagogue, whatever it is, members. It's beautiful. When dealing with a grieving family who are expressing serious anger toward the funeral director, how do you communicate to them to relax them? Whether it's about price, an inconvenience within the service, or the state of their loved one, what words would you use? This is also a huge act of humility. Every funeral director is not meant to work with every family. Everyone has their own personalities and they don't all mesh. So depending on where in the scenario it is, because this could be a million different scenarios, you may tell the family that it's probably better that a different funeral home serve them. I can understand. Here's one. I can understand that, we are not establishing the best relationship and I want you to be most comfortable here at the funeral home. Would you allow me to go bring in a different funeral director to work with you? That's hard for funeral directors to say, and to step back and say, wow, I'm not going to do the best here today. I need to bring someone else in. And sometimes I'll give you a scenario. I had a family and this was on the cusp of COVID. So there were still some minor restrictions, and they came in and it became a huge no scenario. And when families come in with a preconceived thought of what they think it's going to be, and you have to tell them no, 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 no. And it's not because I want to say no, it's because they are misguided by media or by advertising of things that they've maybe seen. And in this scenario, it was, well, the government's going to pay for my dad's funeral because he's a veteran. No, they're not. Let me talk over the costs with you. And where you do have a bit of savings at the National Cemetery and yada, yada. That didn't win any prizes. When the one daughter said, well, I'm in charge of everything because I'm the power of attorney, and I had to tell her, unfortunately, at time of death, that power goes away. She didn't like that. When she wanted a service on a Saturday, I said, well, we can have the service, but the burial will not be until a weekday at the National Cemetery. She didn't like that. So we went down this road of denied, 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 denied. And I was the bearer of bad news. So I became the one that she really was not liking. And so we brought someone different in, and they were the winner. They were so happy with this other person because we had gotten past all the bad stuff. And sometimes you just have to do that. And that's okay, but it takes humility to do that. And it doesn't feel great at the end of the day because I want to be the one that does all the great things for them. And so it's hard when you don't get to be that person. I interned at a funeral home in Tennessee. The son of a deceased woman who was having her service the next day came in to see her embalmed state. She got extremely angry at the funeral directors because we couldn't make his mom smile in her casket. He wanted her to be full smiling with teeth. I honestly had no words and had to let the owners handle that situation. It's instances like that where communication has to be dealt with in a very specific way. Yes, there is once in a while a request where I want mom to have a smile. So we don't control muscles after a person dies, and a smile is a muscle response. That would just be like asking us to have mom laughing and a twinkle in her eye. These are things that are personality driven and functions of the body that we don't control. We can, however, upturn the corners of the mouth a little bit. The way we do this is during embalming, as the fluid is going in and we're doing the massage and we're trying to get a good distribution. You can just slightly keep pressing the corners of the mouth up a bit to kind of manipulate the face to create that. I mean, this is my resting face. Your resting face is what you're going to have in your casket. We can give a little upturn. We could do teeth, but it's, there's some people who never close their mouth because of their dental features and the way that their mouth is. And so when we force the lips closed, it gives this kind of weird stretched look because they never close their mouth hardly because of their teeth. And I've thought sometimes, man, we should just let their teeth show or ask the family. But then you're going to have people walk in and go, oh my God, there's teeth. So it's, because it's not the norm. And you can't make everybody happy. But if the son has that request, I would talk through with him the here's what a natural look is. And some people just naturally have a smile to their face. Not a big teethy smile, but a bit more of a smile. So it's kind of hard. It's hard to find that happy medium, but you have to explain through basics, through non-emotional words and things, how the body is and what happens. When a family wants an extreme request, whether it's bringing the deceased person's pet cow into the funeral home for the service or wanting their mother to smile like she's laughing, how do you communicate to them what can be done and what can't be done? It depends on the request. Like, okay, a pet cow in the funeral home. I'm fine bringing in animals. I encourage pets to be brought in to say goodbye to their loved one if they did not get to see them in the home. Like if they died at the hospital, that dog and cat are going to look for them endlessly because they don't know they're gone. Bring them on in, let them see them for a minute, and they're going to be done with the moment. Once they see the body and they smell the difference, they move on. The cow, I think it's lovely. My concern would, of course, be the cow pooping. They're not potty trained, all cows. I don't know a single potty trained cow. Maybe they're out there, those cute little floofy ones that they have now. But I would be happy to wheel the deceased out to a door, open the double doors, and you can walk the cow up to the double doors where the cow's kind of outside still, but they can still get to the deceased. I'd be happy to have that moment happen. People we just had a motorcycle in the funeral home parked inside. You bring in all sorts of things, deer mounts we hang on the wall, whatever it may be, that's their space for that time. And you want people to walk in and be like, yes, this is Bob's visitation, and to feel, their personality and their hobbies and everything as they walk in, all the pictures and things. Like, we want you to come kind of move in some stuff and settle into this space and make it your own. It's kind of fun and awesome to get to do. If an argument breaks out between family members, how would the funeral director handle the situation? So how would you use your communication skills as a funeral director to distress that situation? We are not bouncers. We are not bodyguards. We are not any of that. I am not jumping in like it's a bar fight and I'm trying to get my, protect my man, or he doesn't need my help. He's fully trained to protect himself. But, let's say my bestie is in a bar fight and I need to jump in. I'm not doing that at the funeral home. If fists are swinging, the police are getting called. If people are arguing, I'm going to tell them to take it outside. If it's during the arrangement conference and people are kind of heated, I'm going to tell them I'm stepping out until they can figure it out. Or I'm going to ask them to leave until they can figure it out and come back calmly. So it just depends on the scenario. I've had fighting at the cemetery and out in the parking lot more so than in the funeral home. Several times in the arrangement conference. I don't think I've ever had it in at the actual service. I always say people get along until the deceased is cremated or buried. And that's when all heck breaks loose, usually over money or someone's had an extra, person in the relationship, things like that. But nothing too bananas. So it just depends on the situation, but typically police can come and they can handle the drama. I'm not jumping in the middle of that. So, and I tell, if there's staff and we know there's maybe a situation, I tell the staff as well, you, especially my 80-year-old retired individuals, are not getting in the middle of things. We worked one service and there was some gang question between the mom and the dad of the child that had died, gang affiliation, and the parents were not together. And so there were some undercover police officers there from the gang division in that town. It was a bigger city. And I didn't know who any of them were. They were all plain clothed. At one point, the dad went to the restroom. I saw him head to the restroom. And then I saw several of the mom's family members heading to the restroom. And I thought, oh boy, here we go. This is it. Here we go. And nothing ever happened. Everything remained calm, thankfully. But some funerals, you're very, very thankful when they're over because you don't know if everyone's going to play nice or not. Would you rather, this is the bonus question from Sophia. Would you rather wear high heels every time you have to embalm or never have coffee again? So this question, I think my gut reaction, of course, I love my coffee, right? You guys know my coffee is, it's part of my soul. But I will say it is very wet and slippery in the prep room. Some have like those grip mats around the prep table. But I mean, heck, in non-slip shoes, I almost fall every time because I usually get water everywhere when I'm embalming. And then I just mop up with that extra water that's on the floor. And the hose sometimes falls off the table. I'm not talking a hose that we're sucking up bodily fluids. I'm talking like a clean water hose. So I get water. And so if I had to do that in high heels, I would probably slip, fall, and die in the prep room. And that's not where I want to go down. So I would probably not want to do that ever. And so if giving up coffee to maintain my safety, I would do that. How about ours? Yeah. Let's see. I've got a couple questions I'll answer for you guys while we're here. What is the benefit of operating a funeral home as a nonprofit versus for-profit? Tax breaks. At the end of the year, you have to, be balanced. You're getting paid. There's not CEOs of nonprofit organizations make huge amounts of money. A lot of that, look up, like Salvation Army and all them. You're making money. It's just where your money gets spent, how it's taxed, all these other things. Thank you, Brooke. How is Josh? Mr. Josh is good. He's out working today at the National Cemetery here. It's been such a beautiful week weather-wise. It's like the most perfect fall so far weather-wise. So he's been enjoying being out there, and his birthday's coming up next week. So Mr. Josh's birthday, I don't know why I do Mr. Josh. We had friends growing up or when the kids were growing up, and one of them was Josh, and he was always Mr. Josh to the girls. So now I have a Josh, and sometimes I call him Mr. Josh. I don't know why. But he's doing good. Still hasn't got a deer. He's really cranky about it, but hopefully this weekend. How you could stop fluid out. How you could stop fluid out, because I had an uncle who had a little bit of fluid out by his color, by his neck of viewing. I'm guessing the incision just had a small leak, and that's probably it. It wicks. So wicking is when you have something that pulls the fluid, like cotton or clothing. It's gonna suck it out because it wicks it out. So that could possibly be what it is. Hey, Debbie Jones, are more people doing cremation than the traditional funeral these days? No. So in our area, it is mostly burial still. But we have, I mean, it's about 40% cremation. It is rising. But what I'm finding is there are so many people now doing at least gatherings of some kind, like an open house with food gathering, like more and more and more. My theory on it is what I like to think is during COVID, people found that there was nothing happening and you couldn't do anything. And so now people find that there is value in gathering together because of this like unfinished business like itch that you get after because you couldn't do anything. And so a lot of people I think are now doing stuff because they couldn't. But we have more the alarm on my phone, more and more doing something, which is awesome to see. Is it true that some people in Louisiana bury their loved ones above ground in concrete instead of below the ground? Yes, down in like New Orleans, I mean, you're below the water level, so you bury above the ground a lot. I think most of the time down there. I don't know that 100%, but from what I've read, that's a lot. And there are a lot of areas like that. You can't dig down and put them in the ground because the hole fills with water too fast. So you have to bury above the ground. Are there a lot of pet aquamation places in our area? There's none, Christine, because aquamation's not legal. Where's it at? Send me information. There's one opening down the street from me and I want to go to the open house, even though that seems weird. Oh my gosh, email me the info. Because you're still here in town, right? Email me the info. I'm curious. We're going to have to come back to that topic then after. Let's go. Once the open house, I want to go. Let's go check it out. That's fun. A lot of new things are happening in our Michigan super vanilla. I always say there's not much legal here. Aquamation's not legal here yet. Composting or natural organic reduction. So it's, my mom is buried on top of her grandmother. Very cool. Okay. From down in New Orleans. So yeah, there's, just because I work in death care, there's a lot I don't know because it's so different in different parts of the country. Every state has different laws, rules governing everything. Yes, we all fall under FTC and OSHA, but the state mortuary boards are different in every state. You may have a dual license where you're a funeral director and embalmer. You may have an individual license where you're a funeral director and you don't have to go to mortuary school. All different, depends on your state. And so a lot of these things, when you guys ask, it's like, well, I can give you some logical, reasonable answers or things I've delved into in the past that have found some answers on. So more and more I'm learning about things across the country, but I always nod to the people that are in those areas, have worked in those areas, know far more than me about those things, so I can learn and grow too. And that's the best thing about this platform is that I am constantly learning and growing with all of you, which is amazing. What steps do you take to prepare a baby? Again, age of the baby, what are you wanting to do with the baby, all of it. The care is essentially the same. Embalming, you just have to embalm depending on the age and size of the baby. Dress casket, cremation would be the same. So there's a lot of things. Well, cremation's a little different because you can't turn the machine on. There's a blower in the machine to circulate the gas that's in there. You can't turn that on because you're going to lose the very, very small amount of cremated remains you might get from a baby. So that's also very different. And then there's Eddie. Thank you. Truly a believer. What is your question? Your question will be my last one for this video. And I don't always get to all the questions. And I have far gone beyond being able to answer all the comments on videos right now because of busy life. Busy life. So, once you post your question, I will answer it and then we'll move on. But the premise of this video, if you came in late, was I received a request by a student to do a video, to answer questions for a class that they are taking out of school. And the easiest way for me to answer questions like that for assignments is to send me the questions and I do a video response. And I just post it and everyone else can get answers to some of their questions as well doing that. And then, yeah, it opens it up that you guys can ask some questions too. So, but yeah, this week has been crazy. Luckily had some time to work at home today. And try and catch up. That's what I feel as if I have less days in the office, that I spend half of the day just trying to catch up and going through like, let's look at this. Let me give you guys a perspective here. These are all my like to-do lists. So then I have my old pile of to-do lists and I have to go through them and make new to-do lists. And that's like a whole process in itself, which is, I love checklists. I love them. They are one of the greatest things ever, is to do checklists. And that, it makes me so happy. But it takes a lot of time to create these checklists. What's the difference between a smallish 1 or 2 location funeral homes and bigger corporate companies? So 1 or 2 location, you're probably going to have a care center at both, maybe. Or you may have a care center at just one and then bring the body over to the other if you're having viewing or something there. You're going to have a smaller staff. Your staff's probably going to be front and back of the house. So they're going to meet families, possibly do transfers, bringing the person in the care of the funeral home and doing the prep side, where when you get to a larger volume funeral home, it's more compartmentalized. You're going to have people in their areas because it's harder to have people go in between areas just out of functionality. It doesn't matter if it's corporate or smallish. The benefits of a corporation are possibly better insurance. Accounting is handled sometimes off site, so you don't have to worry about some of those tasks within your business on site. They go off site. There's a pro and a con to that, but they can provide sometimes different support, 401k type things that may be better than what a small business can offer. But a one building funeral home can be corporate run, and you just may not know it also. All right, I'm not seeing the question from you, Truly a Believer, but email it to me if you want me to address it in a future video, and I will get to those later then. I had 2 other questions. That one, let's see. Asked about trocar. Watched my video about trocars from 5 years ago. The trocar is the instrument used to aspirate the cavity, the abdomen area of an individual. Very important to suck out as much bacteria, fecal matter, urine, everything we can, because that is what is going to decompose a body very quickly. Why would a deceased infant's brain need aspirating, or any deceased for that fact? So we aspirate a brain more so because of tissue gas is one reason. It spreads to the brain quickly. The brain is one of the quickest areas to decompose. So there are sometimes we do need to go through the nasal up into the cribriform plate and break on into the brain and aspirate out the brain. Not as much to suck out, but to put fluid directly into that area to preserve and try to hinder what is going on in terms of bacteria and everything that's going on up in the brain. So those are maybe a couple idea areas of why. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you. Join me back tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with Christina, who is a single mom, funeral director, and embalmer in Minnesota. My mom's from Minnesota, so I'm going to say it that way. And we're just going to chat about her journey and not pros and cons, but challenges and benefits of being a single mom in this business. 90% almost of mortuary school students are females. A lot are second career females who have established families, have children, have a lot of questions as to how to balance that. So check me back later with Christina. Thanks, guys.